Hi guys, we're doing section 32.2 today. The notes are going to be not in your book, so again, go to Plan Book to print them off. I'm going to start off by explaining some things that aren't in your book or the note packet just to kind of show you what this lesson is about. So we're going to be dealing with arcs again today. So if you look here, arc AB, or here, arc AB, you're probably thinking, we already know that that's 90 degrees because this is a central angle. This is 90 degrees because it's a central angle. But today we're going to be talking about not how many degrees this is, but what's called arc length. So in other words, if I were to take a tape measure and measure from A to B and measure from A to B, would I get the same centimeters from A to B here and A to B here? No, it's much different. So this would be 90 degrees, this would be 90 degrees. That's the arc measure. But arc length is like how long it is in meters, feet, inches. So that's what we're trying to find when it says arc length, the inches, feet, meters from A to B. So, for example, again, you don't need to write this down, just kind of listen and see if it makes sense. Let's say the circumference, which is the distance all the way around a figure, let's say this whole thing, oh boy, this whole thing is 80. Well, if the whole thing is 80, how big do you think this part would be if the whole thing is 80? Well, you can kind of tell it's cut into, I have basically a fourth of 80, right? This is 90, this would be 90, 90, 90. So if the whole thing is 80, this would be 20 meters, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So this would be 20 centimeters. Now that's a fairly easy one because I was given 90 degrees. I know that's a fourth of the whole circle, so I take a fourth of this. The formula is going to be this. So let me explain. I have the degrees I have here is 90 over 360. That fraction or that portion of the circle is going to be the same fraction, like a fourth, as this arc is over the whole circumference. So if the whole circumference is 80, if I want to find the arc, I can put that there. If I cross multiply, I'll get the same answer that I had before. We're going to do a lot of cross multiplying today. So cross multiply 80 times 90 is 720. 7,200. And then that's going to equal 360x when I cross multiply the other direction. If I divide both sides by 360, I'll get x equals 20. So this arc would be 20 meters. We will need to use this formula, not just mental math, because it won't always be easy enough to do with mental math. We knew this one because we could take 80 and take a fourth of that, but you're not always going to have 90 degrees or an easy number. So this formula will always tell you how to find the arc or whatever part you want. So the degree over 360, that fraction is always going to be the same fraction of the circumference that you want. Okay, so kind of the same idea then with, let's say that the entire area of the circle is 400. This whole circle is 400. What do you think the area of just this shaded part is? Well, the whole thing's 400. This looks like a fourth of the whole thing. So this is going to be a fourth of 400, 100 meters squared. Again, we can do that mental math because we can take this number and take a fourth. But let's do it the way we're actually going to learn today. So today we're going to use this formula, which is kind of like the circumference formula. We start with the same, however many degrees over 360. In other words, what fraction of the circle do we want? And then you'll see a new vocabulary word here. Let's do this side first. So the degrees I have is still 90 degrees over 360. area of the whole circle, which we were told was 400. And sector, so that's a new word for today. A sector is basically this. It's a fraction of the circle. It's basically like a slice of pizza. So this area in here is a part of the whole circle's area. It's maybe a slice of piece of pizza, so this would be a sector. Whereas the crust of the pizza would be what we call arc length, but the inside, the area, is called a sector. So that would be my x. Again, I can cross multiply here to solve for this sector, which we did by mental math. So when I multiply across here, 400 times 90, I get 36,000. Cross multiply this direction, x times 360. Divide both sides by 360. And x equals 100. So same idea. So what I want us to do is write these two formulas down at the top of your notes. So take a minute, pause the video. Okay, so remember, arc length is like the crust of the pizza. That's right here. Arc is a part of the circumference. And this area of a sector is like the inside, the piece of pizza itself, the area compared to the total area. So let's do a problem. Number 1, I've copied the formula I need. It says find the indicated measure, the arc length of AB. So that's going to be the arc here. That's going to be my x value. I don't know the circumference yet, so I'll come back to that. The degree is going to be, since this is the arc that I'm trying to find, the degree here is 88 over 360. 360 is always the same. Now, I can't just put another variable here because then I have two variables. So we can actually figure out the circumference because of what we learned yesterday. Circumference is 2 pi r. So 2 times pi, what's my radius? The picture shows me that it's 2. So that's going to come out to be 4 pi, which I would just leave as 4 pi instead of the decimal. So the circumference is 4 pi. That goes here. Once I have everything, I can go ahead and cross multiply. So you can start wherever you want. If I multiply this direction, it's going to be 360x. Multiply the other direction. So grab your calculator. 4 times pi times 88 is a big number. Now divide both sides by 360. You get 3.07. That's x, which is the arc length, which is what I want here. Since we're labeled in meters, the arc length is going to be meters. So pick the formula you need, plug it in, and cross multiply. I picked this one because I wanted the arc, the crust of the pizza, not the inside sector. Number 2, find the radius, and this time we're given the arc actually. So the arc right here is 9. The degrees is 100, and 360 stays the same. Now we don't know circumference, but we're going to find circumference, so let's solve for that. That's a C. Go ahead and cross multiply. 9 times 360 is, cross multiply the other direction, 100C. Divide both sides by 100. Now, we've solved for circumference, but have we found the radius? Not quite yet. So here's what you might want to do now. I would probably write down what we learned from yesterday. Circumference equals 2 pi r. If I know circumference, can I find the radius? Yeah. So let's plug that in. The circumference we just found down here was 32.4. which equals 2 times pi times r. To find r, we need to get rid of 2 pi. Those are being multiplied, so we're going to divide by 2 pi. So divide both sides by 2 pi. We talked about typing this in yesterday. When you type it in, you need to type it in carefully. 32.4 divided by parentheses. Because these are both in the denominator, you have to put them both in parentheses in the denominator. So your radius is 5.16, and that's your answer here for number 2. 5.16, label was meters for your radius. I did end up skipping 1b. I don't like the way it was labeled, so I actually meant to skip 1b. So that is number 2. Let's look at number 3.